Started talking. Please keep eating and doing whatever you need to do. Just relax and do it, and just here I am. So I want to thank you all for coming tonight and for your commitment to families. You're the ones doing the hard work and making the sacrifices in a time when your dedication to God and family is very unpopular. And this day is a celebration of you and your families, and is designed to give you different kinds of help. An opportunity for prayer and spiritual support, an opportunity to connect with other families, to gain knowledge and resources, and of course a great spaghetti dinner. We're feeding your minds, your hearts, your bodies, and your souls all at one time. So, in early September, the Archbishop of Philadelphia, Charles Chaput, and it's funny because I will, sometimes when I was practicing, I would call him shampoo and the kids would laugh. And then, the kids would go to bed and it would practice with my wife and I would accidentally call him that. So if I slip, it's not out of disrespect, it's just, Archbishop Charles Chaput wrote an article in Our Sunday Visitor newspaper in which he describes his expectation for an explosion of hope as a result of the papal visit and the World Meeting of Families. I did not read the article until a few months after I got back from the World Meeting of Families, and I was surprised at how very accurate he was in that prediction. In the months before the World Meeting of Families, I experienced a lot of sadness whenever I thought about the state of family life in our country, all the attacks on families and the challenges that families have to face. And I think it's safe to say that we all have families and friends that are in difficult situations, irregular marriages, or who've divorced. Divorce of family and friends is commonplace in our society. Changing attitudes about marriage have resulted in fewer young people actually getting married and more of them cohabiting. There's widespread disregard and hostility for the Catholic Church teaching on marriage and marital relations. Our society continues to be hostile to the lives of children in the womb and to the elderly. A person only becomes a person when we decide that they are a person. And lately it's hard to know what it means to be a man or a woman because gender differences are now unpopular and people can be whatever they want to be. So good luck trying to figure out what it means to be a good husband and father or wife and mother without offending somebody. And if that were not enough, now the Supreme Court has redefined marriage. So there's a lot of challenges that face us and families these days in our society. None of these really surprise me because they're all the fruit of living in a society that has embraced relativism. Chris Stefanik says there's 8 problems with relativism. First of all, it robs us of a sense of meaning, and that can lead us to despair. It leaves us with no criteria for moral decision-making except for personal taste. It deprives children of formation. It separates us from one another. It undermines the right to life. It makes it easy for those in authority to manipulate others, and it puts the freedom of speech under attack, and it destroys faith. You can see all of these things happening. All of these things weighed very heavily on my mind and my heart as I traveled down to Philadelphia in September. And then I got there. And it was exactly as Archbishop Chaput described, an explosion of hope. And there were 2 things that contributed to this hope. And neither of those 2 things actually should have been a surprise to me. The first was the realization that I'm not alone in my faith. Now, first of all, we had about 600 people from our diocese participating in the events. Either attending one of the papal masses, either at Madison Square Garden or in Philadelphia, or attending the World Meeting of Families conferences. We sent people down on buses, we sent college students down, there were families that went down independently of us. There was just a lot of people from our diocese that went down. And it was such an amazing experience because when you got down there, there were people from all over the attendance. There were bishops and priests, deacons, sisters and brothers, and each day there was a mass celebrated by so many clergy that the procession alone took at least 20 minutes. It was amazing to see all those priests and clergy and bishops and all in one place celebrating Mass all at once was phenomenal. And then there were entire families, from the oldest to the youngest, all there for the same thing, to worship God and celebrate families and to discuss what can be done to strengthen them. All of them talking to each other, all of them connecting with each other. And they shut Philadelphia down. There was no traffic. There was no cars going in and out of Philadelphia. And it's like they were like, it was the first time in history that had happened. It was almost like a scene out of like one of those post-apocalyptic movies, except there were throngs of Catholics there. And no cars going anywhere. It was really an unbelievable, cool thing, just like kind of out of a movie. Okay, so in between conferences, we were able to meet and talk to many famous Catholic people that you see on EWTN. People like Father Frank Pavone, Jason and Kristalina Everett, Dr. Janet Smith, Rose Sweet, Jeanette Bankovich. We could just keep going on and on and on. And these people, what was the most amazing thing to me about talking to them was how down to earth they were. And they would talk to me. The feeling that I got when I was speaking with them was that we're all on the same team, working together, and they didn't think that they were any better or more important than me, and we're all to be working together to do the same things, building families together. It was really quite a surprise to me, and it was so uplifting and building my faith that these very famous people would be that way. And the feeling of being alone and the feeling of being isolated just melted away from me. There were literally millions of people that did not think that I was crazy because of my so-called antiquated countercultural Catholic beliefs. The second thing that contributed to the explosion of hope was this beauty, the absolute splendor of the truth as it was presented piece by each of the different speakers, and how it formed one comprehensive, well-ordered, logical picture. It was like putting together a beautiful puzzle. Each of the pieces was very beautiful on its own, but seeing how the pieces fit together and formed a bigger picture that made sense was so satisfying. When you're finishing your puzzles at home that you build, and you see all those puzzle pieces coming together, and all of a sudden you see the picture, that's what it's like. Pretty cool on its own, but awesome when you put it all together. And the list of speakers at the conferences was so extensive, and the topics that were covered were just simply incredible. And it took all 10 of us, representatives from the diocese that attended there to go to those conferences, it took all 10 of us to cover most of the breakout sessions. We couldn't even cover all of them. And even though it was impossible to see all of them, I believe that the Holy Spirit guided us in our choices so that the content that we received was what God wanted us to bring to all of you. Now, the theme of the World Meeting of Families is love is our mission, the family fully alive. Did everybody get a group of these, the book? And, well, when I say everybody, did every family get the book? And then also there was one of these here, pamphlets, and then also there's this accompanying guide. Did every family get that? If you didn't, it's up here. Okay, so the theme is love is our mission, the family fully alive. The theme was the title of the World Meeting of Family Preparatory Catechesis, which is here and which we're giving to all of you. Bishop Barron was the opening keynote speaker. You're all familiar with Bishop Barron because he's done work in, what is it Symbolon, is it? Symbolon and
Word on Fire.
Word on Fire, yeah, okay. So he's now the bishop
Auxiliary Bishop, Los Angeles.
Auxiliary Bishop, Los Angeles. That happened just before the World Meeting of Families. So it was really kind of a very historic time to be there with them. And it was really cool. He was the opening keynote speaker. He emphasized that we are created in God's image. And that when we are fully alive, when we are fully alive, we give glory to God. And Jesus said that he came that we might have life and have it to the full. The best, the most free life, the happiest life is the one that seeks God and worships God correctly. This is what he said. And he said, God is love, and all of our efforts in life should be directed to grow closer to God and help others. And we do this through loving God with all of our mind, heart, soul, and strength, and loving our neighbor as ourselves. On the other hand, whenever we try to satisfy our longing for God with anything else other than God, we do serious harm to ourselves and to other people. Bishop Barron said that wealth, power, pleasure, and our own selfish interests can all become false gods in our lives. It can sap us of life and of our health. And families are a place where, when we're wounded by sin, that we can come back to and we can heal. And family members can get us back up again and after we have fallen, which we all do. Parents have the responsibility to help their children be grounded in the truth and love. Grounded in truth and love, worshiping God and rejecting idols. It's hard to do this. Family members have to work together to resist temptations, to pursue false gods that society constantly presents. Every family has to struggle with that. And it comes in the strangest kind of ways, but it really does. For our family, I would say, for example, we like to play video games, do electronic things, and then we're not talking to each other and spending time with each other. And my wife likes to turn everything off and make us spend time with each other. But it can be a false god for us because it's more sort of pleasurable to do those things than to actually love each other and spend time with each other. So like I said, there's a lot of these little false gods that creep in and that we have to really fight against. And it's not easy to do this because we're always drawn away towards things that seem more attractive in the present moment. So there's some things that families can do to help them with this. And so this is what this pamphlet here is all about. And you can follow along because I want to go through this with you. We're going to be looking at the booklet. It's called The Family Consecration as a Way of Life. And this is one of the resources that was given out at the World Meeting of Families. It's a very easy, practical guide for helping families find happiness by living for God. And I just want to go through it briefly with you. In the interest of time, I'm not going to read it word for word, but I do want to go through the concepts that are in here with you. There's 6 principles in the consecration. It's pray together, participate in the sacraments, practice virtues, learn the faith, share the faith by connecting with other Catholic families and others, and put that love in action by serving. That was essentially the message of the World Meeting of Families. But this consecration, as it talks about, it takes you through it step by step by step. So in summary, by combining those 6 principles, you're going to consecrate your family to God, and not just that you're not going to just do it one single time, but you're going to develop this disposition in your family, a disposition that will help you to grow closer and closer to God. It's going to help you, first of all, to develop your communication with God and your sensitivity to God, because you're actually praying to God. You're talking to God. And every relationship that you have is built on communication. That's what prayer is, communication. So you're going to be communicating more with God. You're going to be participating in the sacraments. You're going to be growing in grace. Extremely important for us to be going to Mass every Sunday and to be going and receiving the Eucharist and being fed by Jesus. And also to be going to the sacrament of reconciliation. Because we are tempted away and we fall and we sin. And we need to be saying, I'm sorry, not just to each other, but to God. And then when we do that, God gives us grace and strengthens us to resist those temptations in the future, to get stronger, to grow, and to overcome those weaknesses, and to grow closer to Him. So, praying together, participating in the sacraments. Practicing virtues. Virtues are habits. You got virtues and vices. They're both habits, right? The virtues are the good habits, and the vices are the bad habits, right? We want to be practicing the virtues, not the vices. But everybody's got vices, But it's funny because the more you practice something, the easier that it gets. And you know, it's kind of funny how that goes, because at first maybe you don't like to do something, you think it's so hard to do something, but then after you've been doing it, you've mastered it, it's like the easiest thing in the world. And Bishop Barron gave this example of like the English language, right? You know, he was talking about how, you know, first you can barely form a sentence, and then after that you're composing beautiful masterpieces, and then you can say, you can express anything that you want in that particular language. Other people teach foreign languages, okay? It's probably like that when you're teaching foreign language. At first it's a struggle to learn the vocabulary, the syntax, the grammar. Then after you've mastered that, then suddenly you can compose the most beautiful thoughts. And you can say anything that you want. So suddenly you've gone from being constrained to being free by following the rules, by mastering it. So that's what it's all about. And that's what practicing those virtues is about. You're actually becoming more free, completely free. Okay, so we have to pray together, participate in sacraments, practice the virtues, learn our faith. Learn our faith. This will help. Okay, the Catechism of the Catholic Church will help. Good spiritual reading will help. Okay, there's lists of things in the pamphlet that you can do. Like I said, I don't want to go through it word by word, but this will give you some good examples and some resources, etc., that you can use. Okay, so learn your faith. Oh, you know, it's interesting. There's also online resources. One of them that I learned about is the online breviary. What's that one called?
iBreviary.
iBreviary. Is anyone familiar with that? There's the iBreviary. Oh yeah, it's familiar with that? Okay, that's good. There's a lot of Catholic websites out there that are phenomenal, just absolutely phenomenal. And one oftentimes will lead you to another, to another, to another. So keep on the lookout for those. They're really good. Sharing, so you're learning your faith, you're practicing your virtues, now you're sharing your faith. And this part, for me, I think this is extremely important because it's connecting you to other people. And, you know, it's one of those problems with relativism that really isolates us. And it's one of those problems with modernism that keeps us separate from each other. And this connecting piece, I think, is extremely important. We've got to get other people in our lives, people that believe the same way that we do, people that will support us in our faith so that we're not feeling alone. So get families over, go to have dinner with other families, have lunch with other families, get priests and deacons and nuns and brothers and get them to come over for dinner. Get single people, get as many of these people over to connect with you and your family. Get them over to your house. Go to things like the pilgrim. By the way, we have a family pilgrimage. I keep jumping out of the camera right now.
That's all right.
We've got a family pilgrimage. There's a flyer for it. Who went last year? All right. Yeah, we're going to do it again next year. We're doing it again in July. It was great fun. We're going to do it. We're going to do it again. We're going to go to St. Anne's Shrine, which will be in Isle of Vermont there. And this is going to be July 16th. Please pick up a flyer. Okay, you can do that. There are 3 sessions of Family Guggenheim that you can go to and connect with Catholic families. There's also 2 winter Family Guggenheim events that we're going to be doing in February. One in Malone, and then one also either in Watertown or maybe perhaps in Governor or another place, but we'll have that decided shortly. 2 of those winter events. And then there's plenty of other kinds of events throughout the diocese, things like this, spaghetti dinners, etc. These things are extremely important because they keep us from being isolated and they connect us with other people that believe the same way that we do and that can uplift us and support us. Okay, let me move on. Last one. Put love in action by serving. And there's plenty of opportunities for ministry in a parish, and there's probably plenty of opportunities for ministry in your own neighborhood. And there's just plenty of opportunities for ministry and for serving in life. But the family is the place where you learn how to do that the best, I think. Because, you know, if you're a parent, you're constantly chasing after kids, etc. And brothers and sisters can do that with each other as well. So you have to develop that strength, that virtue in the family, and then put it to practice out in the world. Okay, so this booklet takes you through that, and it's a great consecration. I'm sure that you'll enjoy it, so please do read through that. Now, when families, it's going to help you to grow in holiness, and when families are growing in holiness, they have a real leavening effect on each other and on society. Leavening, they really lift you up, they raise you up. And families that are doing that are growing in holiness, they shine the light of truth in a world that is much more comfortable hiding from reality and living in the darkness of error. So sometimes you're not going to be well received because that light hurts them. They just rather hide. But when you're growing in holiness, that is an effect that it has. And ironically, though, you're also like salt. Salt has this effect of making other people thirsty. People see how they're acting, and maybe they've never had a family. Maybe their family isn't so good, and maybe they've not had experiences with families that are loving, that love each other, that respect each other, that talk to each other truthfully. And maybe there's a beauty and an appeal to that. And they don't even know why, but they suddenly want more of it. And so when you're growing in holiness, it has this effect of making other people thirsty for God. People see how you're acting, it's attracted to them, they want more of that goodness, more of that love. And by your lives and your words and your actions, the family members have this effect on others, and they're drawing them closer to God. And we're not always aware of the effects that our loving acts are having. They don't have to be complicated. Sometimes just spending time and paying attention to other people is enough. It's hard to believe, but one very tragic statistic that we learn is that parents are only spending about 15 minutes a day with their children. Can you imagine 15 minutes a day? You know, you get married, you have this whole family. Okay, we're going to have 15 minutes a day with you, and that's it. You can see how that goes, but it's really hard to quite get that. As a matter of fact, I think that might be too high. I think it might be even less than that when you kind of add it up. But anyways, it's very, very low. And you want to work against that. Now, in one of the breakout sessions, Jennifer Atkinson, her mom and dad, a theologian and a doctor, a psychologist, and then she was their grown child, and they all presented together in one of the breakout sessions. But this was the part that I remember. This grown woman said this. She said, "When I was growing up, my father spent a lot of time with me, and he treated me like a person. I dated a lot, and I always knew when a man was looking at me as an object and not seeing me as a person, because I could compare it with how my father treated me. And her father was a leaven in the world, because he raised the bar for every other man who ever wanted to be in his daughter's life." Children reared with love and guidance are the foundation for a loving future. Families are domestic churches, places where parents help children discover that God loves them and has a plan for each child's life. Families are the seed beds of religious vocations, because it's in the day-to-day life of the family that the child learns to be aware of God's presence and to respond to God's prompting, much like the story of Samuel and Eli in the Old Testament. God called Samuel in the night, and Samuel thought that it was Eli calling, and Eli taught Samuel to recognize the voice of God and to respond to it properly by saying, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening." This is what faithful families do for their children. They teach them to recognize the voice of God and then to respond to it. They don't tell them what God has in store for their lives. They say, "You listen to God, you be sensitive to the voice of God in your life, and then you start telling me what God is telling you." That's what faithful families do. That's what you do with your children. Archbishop Chaput said that marriage and family and the raising of children with a strong faith are under heavy pressure today from an unfriendly culture, and that the future will have steep challenges for anyone serious about being a Christian. The world needs a new generation of disciples, formed by joy and perseverance. The family is where new life begins for the world, for the nation, and for the church. It's where we learn love and patience and how to work with others in peace. And this is what you are doing. And so I thank you for coming, and I thank you for listening, and most importantly, I thank you for all of the work that you are doing to develop faithful families. So we're a little bit behind schedule. We do have a holy hour, and then after the holy hour, we would invite you to come back for a lemonade and cookie reception. We're going to do a coffee reception.